Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for joining. Um, this is just gonna be an overview of like Tradingview and how to use it with a little Q&A session on there for all you guys in the chat to kind of see what's up with any questions you got and see if I can answer them. But I guess just to get started, a little bit about me. I've been using Tradingview for about 6 years now, so I've got a decent amount of experience, kind of just figuring it out. And the stuff I didn't understand, I kind of just looked up or you know asked somebody who was uh, more proficient than I am. But if you haven't used TradingView before, uh, it's just kind of a platform to do technical analysis. There's some fundamental analysis in there we'll get into later. But it also has community features and a couple other things. I think a lot of people use it as a connecting platform for their futures trading because some of the futures platforms have pretty ugly charts and stuff. So it's definitely a nicer place to kind of visualize everything and do your trading. Um, but if you haven't used it before, you just go to tradingview.com and you can click get started up here on the right. Getting started wise, everything you can do for free, basically. There's definitely some limitations that come with not being a premium subscriber. I think some of the main stuff that you'll see, at least from our server, is our like the volume footprint stuff that we do. You do actually have to be in the premium section for that. I typically advise people to wait until a Black Friday sale because they typically do like 80 to 70% off. Kind of depends on the year, I guess, but typically 70 to 80% off of this monthly, and you just can subscribe for the year. That's like $200 compared to 600. That's what I personally do, and I'd recommend that. So, like, if you're just getting into it and you want some of the premium features, you can always start on a lower one and then like roll up to the higher whenever you feel ready for it or one of those sales comes around. But getting away from that, once you get TradingView, I mean, you can download the app on your phone, on an iPad, but if you're on a Mac or a desktop computer, you can just come to the top bar up here, go to downloads, desktop app, and I'd always recommend using the desktop app. It's a bit more efficient. I know a lot of people just use it in their browser by going to supercharts like this. You can definitely do this. There's nothing wrong with it really. I just think that for ease of access, and if you kind of use a certain workspace whenever you have the Windows app or the Mac app, it'll kind of save everything the way you had it. So like if you have 20 tabs open on different tickers, whenever you close that for the day and then reopen it the next, you'll have all your tabs there. Where with the in the web browser, you don't really get that. So that's one of the main reasons I would suggest using the desktop app. But with all that being said, we'll go to the desktop app, and when you get here, you'll probably get greeted with like a blank chart. Since I've already been using it for a while, I have the layouts page, but I always recommend people kind of make layouts for their different types of trading. It's kind of a little confusing, but once you get the hang of it, it all kind of makes sense. But in general, your charts will kind of just stay in whatever layout you have. So if you mess with 10 different tickers on, say, like this breakout layout, I can then keep all of that TA there. And then if I wanted to do something with like the same ticker, but have completely fresh charts, like get rid of the indicators, get rid of whatever, but I don't necessarily want to actually delete all of it, I can just make a new layout. So I'll just go and do that, and I'll make a new layout to kind of just have the baseline, kind of what you would see. Your volume will definitely look different than mine. It'll look more like this, or yeah, I think the histogram. But yeah, so I guess once you're here, there's kind of a lot going on, but the main things you need to know, you already saw me do it up here, but we have like the main symbol search thing. So this is like typically where you'll start, kind of just, you want to see what stocks, like whatever stocks you are looking for. You can kind of search them up in here and see where they're at. With crypto, it's all up here too. Kind of have these little tabs that give you access to like kind of filtering down your results. So like if you know what you're looking for, maybe it's a future or something. So like you're looking for NQ, you can click futures, because if you do all, you kind of get a bunch of stuff. So if you just click futures, you can kind of see just the futures markets that come up for NQ, and then it makes it a little easier to get your monthly contracts and stuff in here as well. And same with stocks. I mean, sometimes you're looking for a company like I think a good example is like PTC. There's a different one in India, so like just to make sure you're not confused, you can select the US market, so that way you know which one you're getting. Obviously the symbols are different, but if you didn't know, you didn't know. So if you're just looking for one and you know where it's at, like what country wise, you can do that. There's also sectors and different types as well. Common, preferred, that's all pretty advanced stuff. But yeah, so typically you just come in here, it saves your recent searches as well, but it's a quick way to get to whatever stock you're trying to look at. Below that, you'll kind of see the name of whatever you're looking at, the time frame, and then the source of it. So this one's index. If I was on like the Coinbase chart, it says Coinbase. So like if you're ever looking at somebody else's chart and you want to see, especially for crypto or futures, that's definitely a good thing to make sure you note, because sometimes you'll look and it's like a different chart completely, or like the price is different because it's from a different source. But above that, there is like all your time frames and stuff. So like normally when you start out, you'll have just whatever one you're on. So like right now, I'd just say 15-minute. The reason I have so many up here is because you can come and favorite them. So like when you click down on this little arrow right here next to the, again, it'll, for you, if you're just starting out, it'll probably be just one and then this little arrow. And then you can come in here and click the little star and it'll favorite them and add them to your bars. So then whichever ones you kind of use frequently, you can get to them way faster than having to click the drop down and look for it. Another thing you can do at the top, there's this custom interval. So something like 690 minutes, which is something some futures traders look at because it's, with futures, it's 23 hours per session instead of 24. So if you're trying to look at a 12-hour candle, it's not exactly half a session. The 690-minute candle would be half that session because it's 11 and a half hours. So if you wanted something like that, you could come up here and type in, say I wanted a 2-year candle. I guess they don't have years, so I could go to 24 months. And that interval's too big, so that's a bad example. So let's say I just wanted 2 weeks, wanted a 2-weekly candle. Could add, oh, that's 14 weeks. Well, this is going to look weird. But yeah, I mean, you can do whatever you want with that. It's a great example right there. 14 weeks is something that makes probably no sense, but then you could delete it if you don't want it. So there's that, all the time frame stuff. To the right of that, there is your different candle selections. So I know a lot of you guys are interested in the volume footprint. So that's how you get to that. If you want to favorite it, same as the time interval thing, you can hit the little drop down. You can see all of the different types of candles and lines you could want to use. But the volume footprint is about a little bit more than halfway down, and it's just right there. You can click favorite. Another one I use is Hike and She candles. These are a bit in depth to explain, but in a base term, they're kind of just a quote unquote better version of traditional candles because they show momentum a little better, because they don't necessarily change color as quickly. So like a red, like a bearish trend will be shown a little bit more clearly than, say, like normal candles that change color every time they close higher or lower than the prior. And yeah, that's pretty much that. I mean, all of this stuff you kind of need to explore on your own for the most part, but like some people use lines, some people use bars. If you're a Fidelity Pro trader, you like bars. Different variations. but I typically just stick to the traditional candles because it's what I know best. And to the right of that, you have the indicators pane. So with the indicators, there's quite a few that you can access. So out of the base ones that like just come with TradingView, that's all going to be in technicals under indicators. I mean, there's quite a few in here. Volume is a great one. I would keep that on pretty much any chart. Um, our relative strength index, RSI, is a good one to start learning with, or even as an advanced trader, it's good to keep track of. You have a bunch of different moving averages, like a moving average exponential. So, like, let's say you wanted to have an EMA on your chart, you just click that, and all of a sudden it's on your chart. Up here on the left is where you can see your different indicators. So, if you want to hide the indicator, you can do that. And then if you want to change something about it, you just click the little hexagon next to it, and there's a bunch of different things. So typically people arrive here from like a YouTube video or something, and somebody's saying, hey, throw this, whatever moving average on your chart. So let's say they said like a 200. So they want you to put a 200 on your chart. That's where you put it in at the length. You can typically leave most of the other settings alone because source close makes sense. If you change this, it's going to change like what the data is calculating on. Typically, you want the close of every candle because that's like where that data is like finalized for that time frame. You can do smoothing. I typically leave these off. And down here, you have on this indicator, you can change the time frame of it. So right now it's set to chart, but you could set it to like 15 minutes. Or sorry, I'm on the 15 minute. You could set it to like the 1 hour, and it'll show you what the 1 hour 200 EMA looks like, but on this 15-minute chart. So you can kind of zoom in a way to see how the price is actually interacting in a little bit better fidelity. Because like on the 1 hour, you kind of just see like, the wick and like how the candle closed. But in the 15-minute, you kind of get like a little bit more interaction with that. You can see how it was actually interacting with it. Yeah, and then if you wanted to change like the style of it, so I typically have my 200 EMA white and then a little thicker to show it has more, um, you know, resistance or support, because relative to like a 14-day moving average or whatever, the 200 is always going to be stronger. So it's typically thicker on my charts. You can also change like what kind of line it is and everything. If it's like a different kind of thing, that makes no sense. That also makes no sense. But yeah, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with the indicators when you put them on there. Some indicators, like the RSI, will have their own like separate pane. So when you get one like this, there's a couple ways to like put it where you want. So over on the right, you can move it up, and that'll move it above whatever pane it's in. So like if you had, say, 2 RSIs, this isn't a good example because they're the same thing, but you can kind of have one on top, one on the bottom, and like whichever one is moving over the other, you can go up or down like that. So then you can kind of put them wherever you want them. You can also full screen them with this one. So like it kind of makes it full screen, but you could also double click on it to do that. I typically do that with the chart though. So like to get rid of those, you can just double click on the chart anywhere where there's no drawings or indicators. It'll just do that. I think that works on mobile too if you double tap. Same thing. But yeah, you have these down here. You can resize them. Something that's kind of cool that you can do, but only works with certain indicators, is you can actually click and drag them onto the chart. Some people do this. I think it's horrendous, so I personally never really do that. But yeah, that's kind of the indicators section to like go through all these. I guess if you want to get community indicators, so like there's a whole, box, like Pandora's box, to be explored with community indicators, because pretty much anybody can make their own and post them. But there's a lot that you'll see. Like I have this one that I made that I'm sure some people have used or seen in the chat for sure. But it's based on like Fibonacci moving averages and stuff. But like to get to that, somebody would send you a link or whatever. So you kind of get to, what was that web page? You would get to a page like this where you have, the indicators here, and you can do a couple things with it. If you're signed in, you can click add to favorites, and that'll just populate it in here. So under your favorites, it'll be, wherever in your list, it's all alphabetical. Or you can always, I thought there was a different button. Let's use this. Huh. I guess maybe if you're signed in, it actually works better. I wasn't signed in. But there would be a button, and it should send it to like a new tab on your chart, and it would show up. Like this in a different tab, but on the Tradingview thing. And then you can, access it from here. Or if you're curious how the code works, you can look at that in here. Click on that, it'll open all it up if you're into that kind of thing. But yeah, so I guess one thing to note about indicators before I move into the next section is if you're on a free plan, I think you have access to 2 or 3 indicators at max. Like if you put more than 3 indicators on your chart, you won't be able to use them. Or it'll stop allowing you to add more and pop up a thing saying, hey, come spend money. So certain indicators can kind of help with that. I know Spencer uses this daily SMAs one right here. So this actually adds, like 5 different moving averages to your chart without actually taking up the space of 5 indicators. So it's really good if you're on like a free plan. I know there's like EMAs, there's like, this one right here has 8 exponential moving averages, and like you can turn them all on or off and kind of change them however you want. So there's ways around kind of the whole not having too many indicators on your chart thing by leveraging stuff like that. And beyond that, this is more for people who can, like the premium members who have a bunch of indicators that they want to use or whatever. Once you have, say, a couple indicators on your chart like this, you can actually save that as like a template. So you can save that, name it whatever you want. You can even have it remember like the symbol and interval. Say if you have like an indicator that's like really specific on time frames and like how it works, or like is really only good on SPY or NQ or some futures chart, whatever. You can do that. But once you save that, it'll pop up in here. So then you have all like if you go to something else like a completely different chart, and you're like, oh crap, I want to go look at that one set of indicators I had, you can just click that button, and there you go. There's all your indicators. So like you can kind of have a bunch of different variants of this. I mean, I have quite a few that I've used and still use or don't use, but I mean, you can set these up however you'd like, and you kind of get a bunch of different configurations. I know most people kind of like pick a strategy and work with it, but it's interesting sometimes to just go and look at what other people trade. Find a strategy on YouTube or something that's more common and kind of figure out why it works or doesn't work, so that way you can kind of better how you think about the market is the way I kind of look at it. But yeah, you can kind of just set these up however you'd like, and then whenever you want to go back to your main one, whatever you named it. If I actually favorited it, it'd be a little easier. So like if I favorite it, you'll notice it pops up here now. So then I can just quick access it from this hotbar. Kind of how everything works on this top bar is like that, with like the favoriting and saving it. But to the right of the whole indicator thing, we have an alert button. I don't typically use this one. I'll typically like move my mouse to the price I want to set an alert at and do it from there. But if you want to, you can just click up here and create an alert. I'll get to that in a second when we go to over here. But you also have one of my favorite features for TradingView right next to that, which is bar replay. This kind of is really good for helping somebody backtest or like learn a new strategy, because you can, go back in time and like look around at what's going on in price action. It's really good if you, say instead of going right where we just were, where I kind of know what's going on, just go to like the daily chart on Bitcoin or whatever you're looking at and just kind of pick a random spot, right? And you zoom way in. And now we're just like right here. Okay, what the hell would I do if price action looked like that, right? And you can kind of let it play out. And you can kind of like test the strategy. See if something works. You can change how fast it's going. Yeah, that would not have worked. That would have worked very poorly. But yeah, you can just make it go a lot faster. And then when you're like actually trying to enter the trade, like whatever you're testing, you can make it move like 1 a second, or like small bars. So like it does like intermediate updates in between the candle instead of just printing new candles every second. It's not going to be like 1-to-1 with the actual price action, because it's just like saving pinpoints in that candle. But it'll be close enough and give you a rough idea of how, a strategy may have worked or not worked during that back test, right? And this also has like, buy and sell features, so you can buy and like you can do everything on this. I mean, you can set the stop loss, set the take profit, like you can do the whole nine, and then it'll keep track of like whatever's going on. There you go, got stopped out, almost got that TP, but it keeps track that I lost 369. And then whenever you exit the bar replay mode, if you actually submitted a bunch of trades, it'll actually pop up like a little window and tell you how you did. I guess since I only did one, they didn't give me that. But yeah, like if you do typically if you're like make profit off of it, it'll kind of be like hooray, and tell you did good. But yeah, outside of to the next to the bar replay, you have like the undo and redo buttons, which I typically would use Control Z or Control Shift Z, I think. Control Y actually. But yeah, you can kind of undo like anything. So like delete this chart, and I can put that back. But that kind of reset my whole thing. But yeah, now I'm kind of like out here in this empty space. So like this is some situation that some people might be like, okay, where the fuck am I? Easiest way to get out of this is just to double click on one of the bars, or the axis bars, like so the vertical or the horizontal. And once you do that, it kind of resets you to like fit the price action. So this one will always fit the like horizontal, right? So if you have it way stretched out because you were looking at a like less volatile point in time and then price got crazy, easiest way to fix that, just double click this. And if you're like zoomed way out and you're like, oh shit, what's going on right now? Just double click this and it'll fit the time so that the chart scales really nice. And then yeah, to the right of that, we have the layouts. So like this is kind of where the whole layout thing gets confusing, because there's the layouts that control where your chart data is. So like all the stuff you're putting in to the actual chart. So like all your drawings and everything, they would go into this layout. But then these layouts are like the actual amount of charts you have on the screen at the same time. So the best way to kind of work with these, and the way I've found works best, is whenever I want to set up a layout, like a multi-chart layout, I will make a specific layout for that. So like for instance, I have this one that I use to watch a bunch of crypto altcoins at the same time. I have it titled crypto or like altcoin 8x because there's 8 charts on the screen, right? So this is what I want to look at when I click that button, instead of having to like set this up every time where I have to come in here and be like, okay, I want 8 charts, and then I gotta like, you know, type in all the different coins I want. So like it's just a pain in the ass, right? It works a lot better if you do this part one time, save it to a layout, and then just keep that layout. Um, Again, if you're on like a free membership or like the lower tiers, you have a certain number of layouts. I think like 8 maybe that you can use. So once you like populate all those, you're kind of going to have to like clean house every once in a while and make sure you're not using them all on stuff that you're not really using. But if you're already on premium or like plan to go to the premium side of things, you don't have to worry about it. I think you get like 100 layouts, so like you can kind of just keep going and just have as many different setups as you like. Um, but the easiest way to swap between these, once you kind of have all these layouts set up, is just like to favorite them. So you have another thing on the top bar, or like just go to whatever it is that you wanted to look at, right? So like you have your different ones set up, kind of click around. So like it's honestly an easy way to just, the way I have mine set up is like if I want to look at my stocks, I kind of come to this one because I typically have them paired, right? Like I look at Coinbase and MicroStrategy, I look at SPY and Nvidia, or Apple and Nvidia, or SPY and QQQ. Like I kind of typically when I'm watching stocks, I like to have them paired together with something similar in the sector. So that's why I almost always have this set up. Or if I'm looking at, my very specific little things that I check in on every once in a while. So like this, high time frame Bitcoin chart with this Pure multiple on it. This is something that I don't look at all that often, but when I look at it, I want to just click into it. I don't want to have to like add the indicator to my chart. I just click into it. And like all my drawings are here. It's all easy and ready to go. So we'll go back to this new one that I have and get rid of this. And we'll kind of go over into the watch list section real quick. There are a couple buttons up here, I guess. Quick search. So like if you just were like looking for, somebody said something about a Fibonacci or whatever, you can kind of come in here and see all the different Fibonacci things that you have access to. Or like, I guess RSI, relative. I guess this is all for functions. So I guess layouts. Yeah, so I guess you can kind of search for any of the things that I'm kind of talking about in here. If you forget where they're at, if you just remember the name of it, you can look for it in here. So like if you wanted to open a chart layout but forgot where you do that at, it'd just be right there, this little quick search thing. Above that, we have the settings panel, which I guess I could go into that. We also have the full screen mode. So like if you ever get into full screen, which I think you can do by pressing F11 on your keyboard if you're on Windows, you can press F11 or escape. Both of those will get you out of there. Excuse me real quick. And then we also have the snapshot icon. So this will let you download, copy, link, or open your chart. I mean, you can also tweet it, but I found that this function doesn't really work all that well. I think it's still kind of like a work in progress or something, or it's just broken. But everything else works. I typically just copy the image, unless like, if I'm sending it to the Discord or whatever. If I want to keep it for later, I'll just hit download and it'll just immediately download it and tell you where. But just to go over the settings real quick, I think this is something, if you just got on TradingView or if you've been using it for a while, I think this is something a lot of people overlook. You can get to it by being all the way on the far right of the top bar, or if you right click on the chart, anywhere where there's like not a drawing or anything, you can go to settings at the bottom. So a lot of people, like the green and red candles, and they don't really ever change them. I've read in like I think 3 or 4 different trading books I've read that are all about the psychology of trading. Almost all of them recommend more than one time to not look at green and red because there's a psychological preference to that in the sense of like green is good and red is bad. There's a lot to read into with that, and it's something you can choose to believe or kind of experiment with if you want to. But in most cases, I think almost all traders at some point in their time move away from the green and red candles for one reason or the other. And the place you go to do that is here in the settings. So you can actually turn things off as well. Like if you just don't want wicks and borders, you can turn them off. But I typically would just use one of the preset colors. You can make your own color as well if you're very particular. Um, that's totally fine, but you can just change these however you want. So I typically would do all 3 the same, but like you can change the wicks to different colors if you want to. Uh, it's all down to preference, but that's how you do that. I would also recommend just making sure you're in the correct time zone. TradingView's pretty good about doing that, but if you use a VPN a lot or like you signed up with TradingView while you're on a VPN, this time zone might be off. So just make sure you get the right one. On that was all in the symbol category. If we go down to status line, I think leave all of this about default because this controls all this stuff up here. So like I think the only thing I turned off, which if you're a futures trader, you definitely want this on. But I turned off this market status button on this chart. I leave it on my like stock charts, so like it's still on there. But for crypto's 24/7. So for all my crypto layouts, I turn off this. I guess that's a good thing to point out as well that all of these settings will be to your layout as well, I think. So you can set up templates here as well, but we can get to that in a second. But you can also turn off the chart values, so like all this stuff. Just kind of like get your own, like you can figure out what you want to keep and don't want. I mean, you can kind of just get rid of everything and keep it simple, really. And then yeah, for the indicators, you can have this customized as well, so you can kind of see different things on that. But then I think this one I don't really change anything. If you want like values on the indicators, so like for instance, like you see these green, white, green, kind of it shows like the top, mid, and low points of the indicator. You can turn this on or off from here. I know some people like seeing that, some people don't like seeing that. So you can turn that on or off from here. You can also put the name on it. I think that's a bit excessive though. But the thing that pretty much anybody should do, I would think, is come in here and change on canvas your background. So on the grid lines, basically the easiest way to do this is just to change the opacity. So it's probably somewhere around like 15% by default. So you have your chart looking like this, and you have like the grid lines. I don't think everybody does the vertical. Some people like the horizontal ones. If you like them, keep them. But I think it makes it a lot cleaner when you do your own technical analysis if they're just gone. Because then you don't ever have like the weird like crossovers that you think is like a line or a level that you drew, but it's actually just these horizontals. Another thing some people like is the watermark. So you can have this on your chart. So like if you wanted to, like if you take a lot of screenshots and you don't want to have to type in what it is every time, you can just put that on there. You can customize that too. Or actually, no, you can't. That's just how it is. This was over here. So if you need your text larger on the axes, you can do that from here too, if it's hard to read or something. Below that, there's a bunch of trading options. So if you're like doing paper trading or, trading with futures, you have a couple different options you can do from here. So you can kind of get rid of or keep those big red and blue buttons up here in the top corner. You can set that to actually place an order instantly as well. So it'll just, instead of pulling up this little window for you to do your trade, it'll just immediately roll with whatever your like last setting was, or whatever your preset is. You can also have it set as set a sound. So like whenever you place an order and it executes, you can have it give you a notification. And then when you're actually in a trade, so I think if I click this, you can customize like how this shows up. So like you can hide that. You can make your profit and loss not money if you want ticks or percentage. So then you're not looking at the capital amount. Where'd that go? That was weird. And then I think orders would be like if I had a order in or something like that. You can make that appear or not appear. Yep. So you can get rid of that or leave that. And then yeah, if you have brackets, so like if you had to take profit, stop loss on this, you can make these appear in ticks, percent, all that stuff. Same thing. Yeah. And then executions are all these guys. So like, you know, some of the buy and sells and all this stuff. You can have that. You can also put labels on them. Yeah. I think all this stuff's kind of pointless. Order execution. Oh, this is for like screenshots if you want these to appear in screenshots. And then you have alerts, so you can have. This is one of the things I turned off. So like if you have a bunch of alerts on your chart, they'll put lines across like where the alert is. So like that. I kind of don't like that sometimes, so I just have it turned off. So it just is like this little node that pops up right here, so I can see that it's still at that price, but I don't have to deal with the big line. I mean, you can also just change the color of it. And then events, I think this is all like, yeah, like economic news stuff that pops up at the bottom of your chart. I typically leave all like these on, like latest news and economic events. I'll leave those on. But once you kind of have that all set up, you'll kind of want to just come down to templates and probably click save as, and then just type in a name like main, and then you have that. So then if you make a new layout and you want to have it set up just like this is, or whatever you had set up, you just click that. And yeah, that's all the settings stuff. So now we'll go to the watch list, which I'm pretty sure most of you are fairly familiar with, but there's some cool things in here you might not know about. So to get started, you probably want to make a watch list. So you just press, I think if you've never made one, it would just have like the default one in here. Like whatever Tradingview's default one is. But to make a new one, I think you do. Oh, yeah, right here. Create new list, right? So you just make a list, name it something, and then you can just start adding symbols to it from here. So, you know, you wanted to add some stocks that you watch, just like kind of just some generic stuff or whatever you know have in your portfolio. You can put all that in here. Once you have a list made up, if it's going to be like your main list, I'd recommend giving it one of these flags. So like the way to do that is like, I think you just how do you do that? I thought it was on the list. I forget how to do that stuff. I cannot lie. Huh. So I think if you didn't have all four of these picked out already, because you get these four colors, you could set them by just clicking on the little badge. But because I already have them, it's being weird. But beyond whatever you get to that point, you can just, I think, click next to it and it'll add like whatever the first color is, so probably green. Um, and then you have that list right there. So it's one of the quick access lists. And then, I mean, you can have as many watch lists as you want. But, oh, wait, this is where you do it, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, that's how you do that. Gotcha. Okay, so yeah. Um, sorry, lost my train of thought there. Once we have that watch list set up and saved, you can kind of just keep it as like one of these tabs and have all your favorite stuff. So like I got crypto, futures, stocks, and then like since crypto's a little different, you have multiple exchanges. I have like my breakout crypto thing here, and then another one for all of the altcoins I trade and their Bitcoin pairs. One of the things that's kind of a new feature you can do with the watch list is actually make an alert on the list. So like if you have a bunch of stuff you watch, you can actually set an alert on it that's dynamic to basically alert whenever something in that watch list does whatever the condition is. So like you have price, you can do moving up, you know, price moves up 5% in one day. I want to know about that. Give me an alert. Or if you have like an indicator, you can have it, oops, you can have it do like crossing down into the indicator on like the 5 minute chart. So like it's going to check, look for that indicator on any of these different assets and let me know which one and on what the time frame is. So like if I set that up, you can name it something. You can even give it a custom name like FibMA alert. And you can change some things in here. If you get rid of this thing, like the two curly brace ticker thing, it won't have the name of the stock that you or whatever the ticker. It won't have it in the message, so you got to leave that in here if you change the name or the message here. Um, but yeah, and you can also like change the settings on the notifications as well. So like if you want it to notify you in the app or like play a sound if it's on desktop, you can do all that. You can also have it send an email and stuff too. Um, but yeah, then we get to the alerts, and you can see all of the alerts that you've had in your like log come up. So like if you miss one, you can come in here, go to your alerts, and then log, and then you can see like what happened and when it happened. And then like all the ones you have that have already triggered or exist in here. And the easiest way to get rid of them is to click in here, delete all inactive. If you just wanted to like clear out your list, I think the lower tiered like memberships have upper limit on how many you can actually have active at a time. I think premium's like 1,000 or something insane, so you can have pretty much as many as you want. Yeah, and then below that we have the object tree. So like this kind of keeps track of all the drawings that you have. So if you did some technical analysis and had some drawings on your chart, they'll be in here, and you can do stuff with them like group, which is super useful. So like if I have this channel of FibMAs that Fibonacci levels that I wanted to look at and keep together, you can click them. If you grab both by holding shift or control, you can grab both, and then you just click this little plus button on the folder, and then you have a group. So like you can make a little folder, you can, you know, show and hide them at the same time, or just like keep track of your TA as you go through. So like, you know, if you're on like a perpetual futures chart like NQ, I think a good way to kind of keep track of this is like by month or by quarter or something like that. So you can kind of like do a bunch of technical analysis in that quarter or in that month, and then like save it as, you know, that contract's month. And then when you go back, you can kind of like see what happened for that time period or whatever. and you can kind of like go back over time and see how your uh, drawings have changed, or like what you use or don't use anymore, stuff like that. Instead of just always like deleting stuff, it's, free to just keep adding stuff and just putting it in folders and hiding it, showing it. Obviously, don't really want to keep around bad technical analysis, but it's always kind of nice to be able to go back and see what you used to have, or if you had a level and you delete it, it's just gone, but you can always save it here. um, but yeah, that's kind of the object tree. Below that, there's like some chats and stuff. It's like all the community stuff. It's kind of pointless. I don't really use it much. Um, and then there's a bunch of stuff down here. So this one's a screener, right? So this big circle is like the pop out screener. I typically would go to a new tab though and access the screener from here. Um, it gives you this little pop up asking like what you want to screen for. So you do stocks, ETFs, Forex, crypto. So you can come in here and set up whatever. You can have it based on a watch list. So you can screen through one of your watch lists if that's how you want to do it. Or you can screen for everything that they have on TradingView. But you can set up a bunch of different things in here. I won't dive too deep into this right now because this could be its own session entirely for using this screener or other screeners. I know like FinViz is a popular one people use, but since if you're paying for TradingView, trying to get your money's worth, having it all in one place is kind of nice. Again, you could just do on your watch list and then set it up. But once you kind of figure out all the stuff you want, you can always save a layout on here as well. So if you like open a screen, I mean, they got some pre-made ones already in here. But if I had it saved, you'd be able to open that. You can kind of do something like that if you just want to look at the pre-made ones. But yeah, if you want to look into this, I'd encourage you to go and poke around this screener and give it a try. I don't really ever use this calendar. It's pretty good. It's not the best. I think the one Spencer uses and some others online are just kind of in general better at showing off like economic news data and everything like that. This one is pretty good if you just want a quick access though. Like if you forgot, oh, something's coming up, what was that? It is right there. So if you're already on the chart. Something else that's pretty new to TradingView is they have an options thing all built in. So for different companies that are listed on here, you can actually go and see a bunch of different option stuff about them. So you can see the profitability ratios and everything for different contracts on Tesla, for instance, or look at the chain and get like quoted on what a bid or ask might be. So like if you're looking at a company and you don't feel like opening your brokerage just to see what the option chain might look like, or like if the contracts are expensive or whatever, this is a quick way to access that. And again, there's some cool stuff you can do on these. So like it shows kind of like Robinhood has this, and then some Robinhood users might recognize this, which shows like your profitability by the exercise date, essentially. Kind of gives you a baseline of how the contract might, work out or not. Down here, all this stuff is just like community stuff again. I don't really use it too much. It's more beneficial if you like. I mean, you can follow people. There's all kinds of ideas and stuff shared on TradingView. The community is pretty cool, but it's not really a huge selling point in my opinion for TradingView. It's just kind of a nice to have, I guess. But but going over to kind of like the meat and bones of TradingView, I know we already did the indicators, which is pretty important, but doing technical analysis, you kind of need to draw some stuff, right? So over here on the left bar, that's where all this stuff's going to be at. And the first thing, instead of starting at the top, we're going to start at the bottom. So if you are going to use the layout system, I would highly recommend making sure this button is clicked so your new drawings will sync in this layout. If you think that you're going to want all of your drawings on the different layouts, you can use this one. So this will actually sync your drawings across all of your layouts. So if you primarily use the layouts as like different panels, so like having 4 charts on a screen or 6 or whatever, or just like different indicator layouts, but you only want like one hard set of drawings, like you don't want to have to repeat or copy drawings, then you'll probably want to use the new drawings will sync globally, because this will keep them throughout all of your different layouts. I personally use my layouts to kind of keep my drawings separate because I'd like to do a lot of technical analysis. So I will almost always have new drawings will sync in layout. And you can switch these whenever you want, but you're probably just going to do one or the other and forget about it. But like if you have a like set of drawings that you're trying to do, you can always come and set them to global, so it'll be like on all of your layouts. Above that, you have like the hide drawings, hide indicators thing. So like if you have drawings and indicators, but you just want to see your indicators, I guess it'd probably help if I went to like a lower time frame. But if you want to hide the drawings, you can do that. If you want to hide the indicators, you can do that. If you want to hide everything, you can do that. And then there's a couple other buttons here. I think lock all drawings is useful for when you're like panning around a lot and you don't have the habit of insta-locking all your stuff. But yeah, that one's kind of useful. The only other one I really ever use is this magnet, which I think is very useful. So like I use the weak magnet, so that way whenever I am drawing something and I hover over the price action, instead of having to move my mouse to exactly where the price is and taking a guess, essentially, if you have the magnet on, you can see how the actual crosshair goes to that price. So then I can click and it's just already on there. And it'll stay like that while you're in drawing mode. So like if you want to draw a trend line and you want to make sure you're actually at the right points, you can use the magnet and it'll lock you into those different points. Above that, you have zoom in. So like you can kind of click twice. So you click once to start where you want to zoom at, click the other way, and it'll kind of set you up to wherever you want to be at. So like if you just want to quickly pan in, like if you're on high time frame, you can zoom way in on this stuff and then zoom back out with that button. Want to go ahead and hide indicators. Just leave that. A tool you'll probably use quite often above the magnifying glass for zooming is the measuring tool. So if you want to know, how far the price of something has come down or gone up, the easiest way to do that, you just click measure, click wherever you want to start measuring from and go to the next point. If you click again, it'll stay there. But if you click after that, it'll remove itself. Okay, and then pretty much all that's left is all these drawing tools, which a lot of this is, experimentation over time. But I think ones that a lot of people here will use off the bat would be the... I can never find it. Geometric shapes, rectangle, right? Like we all like drawing levels, so if you want to draw a good level, good place to start is with a rectangle. Some people would just use like a ray or a horizontal line. So like if you wanted to do a horizontal line, easiest way to do that, in my opinion, instead of going over here and selecting it, just hover at the price you want to do it and hit Alt H on your keyboard, and boom, you have a line, right? Quick little way to just plop down a channel is just kind of go to wherever you think you want to put it, click Alt H on your keyboard, and then it's there. So then you can get that. And right, you can do that and like move it around, see where you want it. I liked it better where it was. Control Z, that'll take you back to where it was. So that's a quick way to get those in there. Obviously, if you don't want something on your chart, you got to get rid of it. So a couple ways to do that. You can click on it. You get this little context window that comes up. You can click delete right here. There's a couple other buttons here. So you have like lock, so that'll make it so you can't move it. You can make an alert on it. That'll make it so you can, have an alert. You can change some settings. So like if you wanted it exactly at 102,495, you can do that. Type in the 5, it'll change where it's at. You want to put some text on it to kind of, say what it is, like whatever the high POC zone. You can put that on there and it'll stay there. If you just want to change the color, you can do that from here as well. So you can just change it to a different color, make it thicker or skinnier. And then, yeah, click delete, get rid of it. Or you can press delete on your keyboard once you've selected it, and that'll also get rid of it. Yeah, back to the rectangles. So a good thing to do with these when you start building zones is to kind of set up a couple sets of color combos. So like if you have resistance zones, you might want those to be, slightly red or like have a red outline. You could do the inside of the box red as well. I would recommend reducing the opacity to like probably less than 10%. So that way it's not like hard to read whenever you zoom out. But I typically just do the gray with the red outline, and then you can save that as a template and name it whatever you'd like. So like bearish zone, right? And then whenever you want to quickly access these, you can switch to whatever your preset templates look like, right? So I think another way to do that, yeah, right here. There's the templates button right here, so you can click that. Once you're on the drawing in this little context menu, you can set it from here as well. So it's a quick way to do that. Just like the best way to manage that, I think, is by coloring, like color organizing. It just kind of locks your brain into being able to quickly identify, like, hey, I drew this zone. Why did I draw it? It's red with a white background, so it's a bearish FEG. That's, easiest way to do that. Otherwise, you can just, title it like that. I like to sometimes, depending on how high time frame or whenever I might have drawn something, you can title it and give it a date and kind of just remember, where you drew that. Maybe write down why you drew it. Just trying to jog your memory whenever you come back to this level, because sometimes price will go way up or way below, and then when you get back to this level, you're like, damn, what made me draw that, or what was the exact price action? Because typically you might have your zones like this, especially, and it's a little harder to know that it was drawn from here because it goes all the way across. That's one of the reasons I like doing the extend left turned off for this, because it gives you kind of like this was the beginning, and then everything after that is what I'm trying to test against this zone. But yeah, once you have all your stuff kind of drawn, again, you can just put it in a folder. So then, like, I want to show those together. I want to show all that together. I can do that, right? If I just want to look at this range, I can do that. If I want to look at all of it together, I can turn it on, all on. And it's all right there. Yeah, typically you'll kind of fall into whatever types of technical analysis you like doing, whether it's the support resistance zones or hard lines, trend lines, whatever you like. Again, you can favorite these, and that'll all populate onto this little context thing, this little bar you can drag around, which I think is opened from this thing right here. So all the way in the very, very bottom left corner, you have this little button that'll make this pop up, and then you have all your favorite drawings on there. So I'd recommend kind of figuring out what you like and favoriting them, so that way you have quick access. But up here in the top, it's pretty much all trend lines and horizontals. There's a couple cool things to mess around with, like parallel channels. These can be kind of useful sometimes if you're not the best at drawing perfect lines or anything like that. It's an easy way to see how parallel a channel might be. This one's pretty decent. And then below that, there's the whole Fibonacci suite. So if you want Fibonacci retracements, Fibonacci extensions, all that stuff's in here. So pretty much, retracement, you just click draw 2 points. Fibonacci extension, you would click the first point, and you have to select a bottom point as well. So you kind of get the extension of this range. So you can kind of get an idea for like potential upside zones, because like what'll happen is as the price extends out of this area and it gets into one of these pockets, you'll get different retracement zones with the other Fibonacci levels that'll kind of align or give you some level of confluence. That's a good way to use these. There's a bunch of other stuff in here that's kind of just a bit more speculative than even Fibonacci levels are. Like Fibonacci time zones and stuff like that. It's all kind of stuff you can just mess with. I've only ever favorited these two. There's a bunch of patterns in here. So like another classic head and shoulders. This is not a good example, but you can draw a head and shoulders pattern on your chart, and it kind of gives you the diagram. You can go and color everything and set it or change the text however you'd like. And there's a bunch of different patterns in here, like triangles, right? So you get like, I did not draw that right. Did I draw that right? I've never used this one. But yeah, they're all in there. If you're an Elliott wave trader, you have your different setups in there, so you can go and just automatically pull your different Elliott waves without having to like do a crazy amount of setup or anything like that. Below that, these are some common ones people use, like the long position. So like if you want to, track your trade and kind of set it up, if you're eyeing something, you can do that. Pull your long position calculator and kind of see, to get your correct RR, like whatever you're looking for, kind of help you set up, where you might have to actually get that take profit or that stop loss without having to, run numbers on a calculator or anything like that. Same thing with a short, just the other way. And then one I like to use a lot, I think is really great for technical analysis to kind of get an idea of how things might play out. Like if you find a familiar looking area of price, you can use this bars pattern, this one right here, and you can grab that price action. You can like, put it where it makes sense and kind of see like this, might be how price plays out. Obviously, it shouldn't be 1-to-1. If it was, that'd be scary, but it, gives you a similar idea, because everything's kind of patterns at the end of the day. Like stuff moves in a particular way. And then there's a couple volume-based ones down here. So like the fixed range and anchored volume profile. I like the anchored one because you just have to click one time and it'll show up. But this kind of gives you a volume profile throughout the trading range. So like, if especially when a asset is stuck in a range like this is a great tool to use, because it kind of shows you where the bulk of the volume is, and gives you a pretty solid midline. This is typically referred to as the point of control, or POC. So it's just kind of a great level to keep an eye on, especially when something's stuck in a huge range like this. But you kind of get this whole area called the value area. Comes with the value area high, value area low, and that point of control. Definitely, if you've never used this before, I'd take a look into it. It's a great way to find confluence on, support and resistance zones. I mean, like, you can even just draw zones off of this and they work pretty well. But yeah, that's all over here. The anchored one, again, that's just you click once, so like wherever you'd want the thing to start at. So like the beginning of the range typically is like around here, right? I mean, it's kind of hard with this, but I'd do like the last major candle up and it'll just plop it down. You can also do a fixed range one. So like if you just want to do from this low and to here, or from this low to here even, you can do that and it'll draw it. So just showing you this price action versus everything. So that's better if you do like something I would recommend everybody looks into at some point is doing this on daily sessions. So like you can draw that just on a daily candle and then zoom way in and it kind of gives you, you know, some price action. So like this session started here and ended there. And then you can see that like price action fell perfectly to the the value area low of this volume thing. So these levels are typically monitored on something like Bitcoin per session, so like every day. And yeah, below that, all the volume stuff. I guess real quick, we'll go over this one too, because this one's a good one. The same as the measuring tool, but it actually stays on your chart. So it's like the price range, date range. I like the date and price range. So this kind of gives you all the info and then it stays on your chart. So like you can kind of leave it there or do some other stuff. Like if you wanted to check the differences between areas and stuff like that to kind of measure volatility, that's a good way to do that. Below that, you have more of your drawing tools. This is where we found our rectangle. There's also a brush. So, I mean, if you just want to draw pretty things on your chart or kind of like point arrows, stuff like that, you can use that. There's a highlighter. There's arrows. I like using the arrows to point at things. There's also the path. So if you're kind of like doing a prediction thing, like almost like an Elliott wave or something, you can use that. And then yeah, there's just a bunch of like circles, and I think the only one that's really all that useful maybe for like parabolic stuff is like the arc. You're trying to measure like a crazy rally to try and gauge if it has any legs. If it's like halfway up a parabola, it's probably dead. But yeah, there's also text and all kinds of stuff. This is new. I don't even. Okay, you can do tables in Tradingview now. That's pretty cool. Huh. I didn't even know that. But yeah, I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff with these, like little notes and stuff. So like if you have something, this is all kind of like if you post charts a lot. Otherwise, you probably won't ever use this stuff if you're just doing your TA and minding your own business. Yeah. So I guess with that, there's a couple other things down here, but everything's kind of more, you know, I think everybody who uses the trading stuff probably knows how to use these by now. But if you don't, typically you'll come down here, and if you're just coming to paper trade, all you have to do is just click paper trade, connect. You won't have an account, or you will, and you'll just have to like reset it or whatever to change however you want it to be set up. You can make an account like this, set your balance. So if you want 100,000 or 1,000 or whatever, if you're not in US, you can change your currency. Typically, you could change your leverage to like whatever you would use to like simulate whatever your brokerage is. So like if your brokerage has leverage, so like if you're on futures or forex, typically they're like default 20 to 1 or 50 to 1. However you would do that, And then you can also include commissions. So like most crypto brokerages are like 2 or 3%, or like not actually 2 or 3%, but whatever that is, 0.03, like a tenth percent. So you can turn that on, so it'll calculate all that, and you have a fresh account. And you can paper trade. You can just start taking trades. Some assets won't let you trade them, so particularly if you don't have access to futures data. It's typically where you get scammed. Um, but yeah, other than that, I think now would be a good time to answer any questions that y'all have. If anybody has anything to they wanted me to go over again, or something maybe I didn't cover.
Mike, I had a question about your Fibonacci moving average indicator.
Okay.
Have you figured out a way to put text on it? Like, so I can differentiate between the 5, the 15, and the hour, since I have them all on one chart? Or do you just know based on the way it's respected?
So typically, the way I differentiate them, at least. So if we're on the 1 hour chart. So let me actually go to like the 5 minute or the 15 minute. So I'll leave this one on chart. I'll make a 1 hour, and then I'll make like a 1 minute. So I think this comes down to this. Okay. So in your settings, like on your chart settings, you'd want to go to just added earlier. Oh, here we go. For the indicators under status line, you'd want to turn on arguments. You can probably turn off values, but if you turn on arguments, it'll show this right here. So like, maybe let's turn off the 1 minute. Well, these are actually surprisingly close together. Do the 4 hour. That's too far. There we go. That's good. So this is how I would differentiate them, right? So like, if you just have this thing open up here, you can see like if you click on this one, it's the 15. If you click on this one, it's the 120. So that'd be the 2 hour. And like you can see like the little dots appear when it's selected.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have like a work in progress one that I was developing that has like some extra data on it, but I didn't actually add like a thing for um tracking which one it is. There's just like some data up in this window. Um I guess what like if you have it set up, if you find two that you like using together, one way to differentiate them would maybe just be to set have a you know
A different color combo for them.
yeah, like a different setup
Yeah, that makes sense.
type thing. So like you could set the color like that. So like maybe your high time frame one looks something like that. That's not really a good color combo, but it's
Right.
something.
No, that's actually a good idea. I like that.
And then I think you should be able to. I don't know if you can use templates on these. I think you can only use the templates on the out of the box trading view indicators. I don't know if that's something I need to enable in the code, but I can look into that. I never thought about that until now. So that was a good question.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep. Anything else?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, this is Chris Barbarossa. All the way on the top, I was a little bit confused. You got this XYZ TS. Are those your templates?
Yeah, so these are all of the indicator templates that I have. So it just kind of whenever you save one, it'll kind of pick the first letter. But
Now,
then
the
if
the
you
other part on your layouts, you got A, B, right next to unnamed. Are those your layouts?
yeah.
I mean, is this part of your higher paying value for TradingView? Because I don't seem to mind.
So have you favorited any?
Yeah, I mean, I can only save I think 5 layouts, and I have them like what you're showing right there. I see them like that, but they don't show up like what you have like A, B, or something like that.
Do you have any of them starred like this?
Okay, maybe that's it. All
Yeah.
right,
So when you click the star, then it'll appear up there.
all right. Oh, I got you.
And
Thanks.
yep, and that's true for the indicator templates as well. And then same with the time frames. So like all of these different drop downs will have a star that
All
you
right.
can put on them.
Yep, it just showed up. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any more questions?
Hey, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no worries. Last call for the questions. All right. I guess with that, I'll go ahead and wrap this up. If there's anything that maybe I went over quickly or maybe missed and you guys have a question about later, feel free to DM me or ask in the chat and I can try my best to answer it. Other than that, this will be recorded or was recorded, so if you want to go back over it, you'll have access to that. I'll post it to YouTube later tonight and post a link in the chat, and everybody will be able to rewatch any parts of it or whatever. But yeah, thank you all for joining. I appreciate your time, and have a good night.